your host for Curtain Call, our podcast all about theater. And welcome to today's program. Today we're fortunate to have two founders of the Playwright, Detroit's Playwrights Lab here in Detroit, Angela G. King and Charity Clark Anderson. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
We're so glad to have you. Over the summer and up until this point, we've had mostly actors on our program, and it's good to finally get some playwrights on to talk about your aspects of theater here in Detroit. Uh, Glad to have you both. I've had the opportunity to work with you, both of you on occasion, and I'm looking forward to what we have to share with our audience today on Curtain Call. So, ladies, whoever wants to start first, just tell me a little bit about yourselves and your experiences in theater, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I am kind of still, even at this point, a novice to theater comparably compared to my colleague over here. I was a journalist for more than 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Worked in Detroit, New York, Washington, D.C., got my degree in journalism from Howard University. And coming back to Metro Detroit for the second time, came back to go to film school, believe it or not, the Motion Picture Institute in Troy. Thought I wanted to be a film director. Somehow stumbled into acting, even though I don't believe in accidents. And in that process, did my first show at the Detroit Repertory Theater eventually, and that's how Charity and I met. We were in my first show as a professional actor, equity actress, I should say, a song for Coretta. And we've been in touch ever since, and just building a friendship and building a camaraderie as creative professionals in theater.
Okay. Now, I recall you actually being in one of my shows. I don't know how many years ago that was, but
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I have a son who turned 26 yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And he was still on Heelys when I did that. That was before, that predated the rep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That was Grandma Rogers' neighborhood. I
Yes.
remember that. You played
The fiance.
the fiance.
Yes.
I can't remember her name right now. Letitia.
Yes.
Keisha, something like that.
Keisha.
Keisha
Yes.
and Grandma Rogers' neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. And so theater took off from that point.
It did. You were the first person I ever auditioned for as far as theater is concerned. And it was a musical.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it really stretched me. I knew nothing other than watching theater as far as blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And you let me know that quickly.
Okay.
But it was a great experience. We did that at the Northwest Activity Center, at the Paul Robeson Theater. And I got a taste of it then. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, I knew that if I wanted to pursue it, going into this brand new career from another career, I had to take it seriously. It's a passion, it's a career, it's a life for people. And so that was my first taste of either you're going to do this all the way or just walk away. And I know I wasn't going to walk away. So.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm so happy to hear that. Charity?
Okay, well, I've been around for a while now. This has been my life for several years. I would say over 30 years that I've been involved in the theater scene locally. Just like doing what I do here. I started off just as wanting something to do as a hobby, and I knew I could speak well. So I said, well, let me see what I can do. And I took a class or two here and there, and well, it went on from there. Something struck right then and there, and I started taking more and more classes and started auditioning as an actor, and was cast in some of the local productions here. And then I was head of the drama ministry at my church, Christian Tabernacle Church in Southfield, Michigan.
Met, Christian Tab.
Yeah, Pastor James L. Mormon. And I was working with him and trying to get some type of theater going in the church. And I couldn't quite find something that fit the church. You know, you have to have a feel for the church and what's needed in order to present to the people. So the Lord led me to start writing something for the Christian Tabernacle on drama ministry, and that's how I started writing. We put on several productions at the church, and then I began to stretch as a writer and started my own company, See Clear Productions, and I wrote and directed, and my husband James and I produced, and we put on productions under See Clear. And then, as Angela said, we met in a production of not going to St. Ives,
A Song for Coretta.
A Song for Coretta at the Detroit Repertory Theater, and started talking. She loves to tell the story. I'll let her tell the story of how the production company came to be. But that's basically, I'm a writer, director, producer, actor, and I love it.
I found that a lot of us wear all those hats here in Detroit. If you're in the theater and if you love theater the way we do, we find ourselves wearing the hats for all aspects, from writing, directing, producing, even acting in, and setting up the stage and breaking it down, and the whole works if you're involved in theater. I remember us doing Family Love at Christian Tabernacle. I think that's
Yes, you did do Family Love.
We did it, and we converted it to a Christmas play. Family Love wasn't really a Christmas story, but
I remember.
we somehow made it work. We're doing Christmas Square. As a playwright, I was able to edit some of the dialogue to make it fit Christmas. So go ahead, tell the story.
Okay. So once I got on that stage of the rep, I, like Charity, became a member of the Detroit Repertory family. And so we would run into each other at different events at the theater, plays and whatnot. And we would talk, and she's like, yes, I write. And I was like, I write too. And I was a budding playwright at this time. I barely knew how to even, put it on the page. I just knew the words. And one time during, I think it was an intermission or something, it was like, yeah, I'm just tired of reading it to family and just reading it for myself. I wish I had other people, theater people, who I could read and get some real, helpful critique on as far as if it works or not. And she was saying the same thing, and we were thinking maybe we could get together at her house in her living room.
We were going to go in my living room and read to each other.
Read to each
And I told
other.
her, I said, my poor husband, I get so tired of reading this stuff to him. And he doesn't really know what to say, that's good, dear, that's good, but, So I wanted to give him some relief from that.
And my son, who was still a kid at the time, he was a kid, and I'm trying to read to him. And he had some helpful, but he didn't know, he was a child. So Leah Smith, who wasn't the executive director yet, but she was she was the heir apparent, overheard us.
Okay.
And walked over to us and said, literally, you can meet here. And that was 2016.
2016.
Okay.
And we had our first meeting in the actual theater, performance space of the Detroit Repertory Theater in June of 2016. We had like 25 people there.
Wow.
We had by Skype Dominique Morisseau, because she was still living out of state at the time.
Okay.
We had
Bill Harris.
Bill Harris came.
Okay.
I had sent him an email, never heard from him, and he just showed up. We haven't seen him since, but he was there for the first inaugural meeting.
Okay.
I did run into him, and he said he is still supportive of this.
Oh, good.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Great. So that's how and it's still housed at the Detroit Repertory Theater.
Yes.
And I was just over there last week. At this time last week, we did had Leah on last week.
Oh, okay.
And looking forward to continuing having her on as we go through this 62nd season of the Detroit Rep. So tell us about what it's been like working out of the Rep and how that works, how the workshop works for young budding playwrights and even old heads like myself.
We have a range of people who come from very young to much older, from people who have degrees in playwriting, master's degrees, to people who are just curious. It fluctuates. We have a core usually. We meet every other Monday at the Rep, Monday nights at 7 o'clock. And we usually have at least 10 people, and we do a writing exercise. We're led into, which is I've written some of my pieces off of those, literally, writing exercises. We do that, we make announcements, do the writing exercises. That takes maybe up to 20, 30 minutes. And then she keeps a schedule of people who just want to read, a 10-minute, either a piece or a 10-minute excerpt of what they're working on.
Okay.
We get our own actors, whether it be from amongst the group or we bring in people. We both brought in people sometimes.
Okay.
And we spend a half an hour on each piece. In that half an hour, you get to read and hear criticism, constructive criticism. And you get to determine whether you want prescriptive, like you should do this, this, and this, or questions like, well, I have a question about this, I have a question about that, and things like that. And based off of that, from 2017 all the way until this October 13th, in a couple of weeks, we've done an annual showcase of our 10-minute pieces that we've developed over each season that we've had.
Okay, so on the 13th, the pieces that'll be done are 10 minutes long each?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
10 minutes, a 10-minute showcase. What we do is, excuse me, the playwrights who are members of the group submit blindly a 10-minute play, and we invite directors to come in and read those plays blindly, and they pick a play they want to direct.
Okay.
There's no way to direct out.
Yes, yes. So yeah, we have certain standards as we've advanced in existence. We've kind of honed who we are. So we have certain standards. You must attend at least 3 meetings before you're considered a member. To be considered a member in good standing, we ask that you attend to support the Detroit Rep. You attend 1 show per season that you actually, purchase tickets for. And then once you're considered a member in good standing, you should have your piece read at least twice before the group, preferably 3 times, sometimes more if you have the time, but at least twice. And then based on that, you go, you edit, you tweak, you get more feedback. And then if you're a member in good standing and you're interested in submitting, we have you take that title page or at least your name off. You submit it to myself because I tend to produce the showcase while she runs the day-to-day during the year.
Okay.
You submit it to me without a name. I put it all together, and then we go to the directors that we've invited, and we have a list, and we go down that list until we usually do 8 pieces per year, 4 for a first half, an intermission, 4 for a second half. And they go in and pick what they want to direct. And then they cast those pieces. And it's a 10-minute piece, no more than, 4 characters. Very simple staging, because we want to focus on the writer's words. Acting boxes, lights up at the beginning, lights down for intermission, lights up for the second act, and lights down for the conclusion.
Okay. Oh, that's taking it back to the basics there. And then that's one of the things we want to be able to do with this podcast is educate our audience about theater. There's so much good theater going on right now. As I started this podcast, I realized there's so much good theater that is just not being heard of throughout the community. But I believe if the community knew of all of the theater that was going on, that would be a greater audience and support for the theater that's going on. And I'm not saying that there isn't, because we went to see Memphis, and it was packed out. We went to see the show that Leah, the last show that the Rep did for the season. It was packed out. So there is support, but we firmly believe, at least I do, that there's more that can be done with theater. Now you said some very instructional, some things that would say there's a lot of instruction, a lot of basic fundamentals, and a lot of educational pieces that can be taken from the workshop. You spoke on some of that. Could you give us a little bit more in depth? We want to educate our audience on just, the whole writing process. I know that myself as a writer, I just get ideas or visions or stories that come to me, and I know everything that I try to write about is basically slice of life. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about your inspirations and maybe some of the inspirations that you've seen witnessed through the workshop over the years.
Excuse me. Okay.
And I know you mentioned talking about writing for the church. I actually started writing to address things I saw missing in students at Oakland University in 1981, 82 is when I started. Just looking at things that I thought that they could learn and grow from culturally, and that I could put on during Black History Month. So I mean, that was the whole emphasis for me. I had a degree in theater, so I was familiar with theater primarily as an actor and as an
Tennessee
actor.
State, right? You went to-
I went to Tennessee State, and that's where I'll be coming from. And when you do your showcase, I won't be here.
Oh.
So I won't be able to see that. But I know you mentioned the church as a motivating force. Just build on that, and you talk about some of the things, motivations, inspirations, ideas, visions that you come up with that have led to your stage play.
I am faith-based. However, I like my characters to be well-rounded and not just, I need to know the motivation behind everything that's done.
Just give me just a minute. Hold that thought, okay? You are watching Curtain Call on Wjzz Cool TV, streaming on all streaming platforms like YouTube, Facebook, X, Twitter, all the streaming sources that you have. You can find Wjzz Cool TV, Curtain Call, coming to you live. Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. Okay, now, let's hear that thought.
Yeah, I'm very character-driven.
Mhm.
I need to know when, where, what, why, and how. Okay, I delve into my
The
characters.
basics, that's got to be a part of everything.
Yeah, I gotta find out who they are, why they're doing what they're doing. That motivates me more than anything else.
Mhm.
If you can see what the reasons that they do what they do, then if I can see it, then others can see it, and you can get your message across. The Detroit Playwrights Lab, we are not there to teach per se.
Mhm.
We encourage all of our members to take formal classes.
Okay.
Okay. Our goal is basically to have a forum available to get their works read and heard, and that other people's ears, prick other people's ears so they can hear. Like Angela was saying, we have a variety of range of people with master's degrees in theater, on down to the novice who just had an idea, who just wants to sit and listen. We have some people that don't even write for a while. They just want to come and feel motivated to write. Okay. Now, once you're there and you read your work, and we're going to present it in a spirit of love, but we're going to tell you, the things that we know that you might improve upon, or what might bring out more of what it is that you're trying to say. And we're going to give you sources too as to formatting, formatting, how plays should look, what they should contain. We're going to give you as much of that as possible. But we're not basically there to teach, but just for form for expression.
Okay.
It is a good place for self-starters. If you're motivated, that's the place for you. Now, I'm a stickler because I have a journalism background.
Yeah,
And so I'm a stickler for format. If you don't know it,
Right.
you better learn it. I guess who I learned that from. You need to learn. You know?
Right.
And we do sometimes give out handouts and things. And I give a tip that we used in the newsroom. Okay, you can read it with your eyes, but the eyes are very deceptive. Read it out loud,
Right.
and it'll catch a lot of, and you'll get a better sense before you even get to us whether it flows or not. And you'll catch a lot of mistakes that the brain will self-correct, but the voice won't let you get away with it. So we do give tips. And but you have to be self-motivated. You have to be a self-starter. You can't be thin-skinned. I mean, we're supportive, we're loving, but we're frank and we're honest, because if you are serious about getting your work before people, for me, she says she's very character-driven, and I am too, but for me, the characters support the story. I'm a storyteller, whether I'm in a production, whether I write about a production, when I was a journalist. The story, I'm driven by message, and I'm a faith-based person too, but I'm driven by, like I did a piece that was a writing exercise
Mm-hmm.
that evolved into a short piece, a Christmas piece, that dealt with human trafficking.
Hmm.
See, these things, it is a slice
Is that
of
on
life.
online?
It's not online. It's been performed through Mosaic, 12
Okay.
Plays of Christmas, a
Okay.
couple years ago. I did bring a little snippet of it. But these are things that really kind of interest me, that I'm interested in, whether
Mhm.
it's me personally or me knowing of as a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And so the characters for me drive the story.
Right. Right. Okay.
Indeed, you gotta have your character, you gotta have
Yes.
your story. They
Yeah.
all work together
Right.
in harmony, you know. So we're there to support you, to help you to bring those things out.
Okay. Okay. I've noticed one of the things, like I write to tell the story as well, and I always want to touch on something. You both say you're both faith-based writers, and I tend to write from a spiritual perspective as well. I'm sitting here listening to you, and how critical you say you are, and I was wondering, I wonder what she thought about Grandma Roger. You know, because that was, I was just curious.
It was real. See, what some people think when you're telling something from a perspective of faith,
Mhm.
that it's all roses
Mm-hmm.
and that's not
No.
life.
No,
I don't care
no.
if you go to church or not.
Right, right.
And I think we're all here, because I know your work and I know your work,
Mm.
to present life and the possibilities of
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And now the Playwrights Lab, so people don't get a misunderstanding, even though we are, we're Christians. I mean,
Mhm.
whatever I write has to, come from my faith, whatever.
Mhm.
But we don't per se say that this is a faith-based
Right.
organization. The lab is not faith-based.
Mhm.
We have a lot of interesting playwrights bring with all kinds of subject matter, all
I can
kinds of
imagine,
subject
all
matter.
kinds of subject
We
matter.
listen and we understand.
Mhm.
Mhm.
One of those areas I would like to explore, and we'll be exploring basically, hopefully tonight with you, and next week with my guest for next week, and even the week after that. There are social issues that we as a community and as a nation have to be concerned about. You mentioned human trafficking. I just wrote a screenplay that deals with human trafficking. Uh, 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 but there are issues, and I noticed that a lot of times theater can be used to address certain social issues, and maybe a play is performed, and then there's a discussion group afterwards where the issue is highlighted and discussed and talked about and made aware of, a greater awareness of. Like you mentioned human trafficking. I think there's some other things that you had in your bio that the plays, the social issues that the plays deal with. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because we're going to explore that more about a young lady coming in next week who's written and performing a one-woman show that she just did in New York. And she's going to be doing it here next week, More Than Beyond. And, yeah, Morgan.
Who is that?
Morgan Breon.
Oh,
She was initially one of our early members.
Okay.
Briefly, but Morgan's a very busy young lady.
Morgan is brilliant, busy and brilliant and busy.
Yes.
And so she'll be on next week, and then I've got Edmund Jones coming on the week after
And
that.
then he's been to our
And so
lab.
we're going to be discussing kind of things that are relevant towards social issues and addressing mental health concerns or social concerns. Can you speak a little bit about those things as in your experiences?
Let's see, we did something for the Purple Rose a few years back. It was in the midst of COVID, where they gave us the subject matter, love and loss. And at that time, I was dealing with the loss of my mother.
Okay.
So I was able to kind of explore grief from the perspective of my father, actually, because she was, yes, my mother, but that was his wife for 55 years. They practically grew up together.
Mhm.
So as a journalist, I know the story personally, but I also research everything that I write about because I write about so many things sometimes that I don't really know a whole lot about. Like I knew nothing about I had to do a lot of research on what has it, it was originally known as human slavery, or modern day slavery was what they were calling it when I first started down this path. Now it's evolved into being called human trafficking. And it's a process. To write something creatively doesn't mean that you necessarily make it up, especially if you're dealing with real issues.
Exactly.
These are people's lives, and it speaks to people. I mean, I think both of our pieces have been picked by directors that it speaks to, and they're either intrigued by or they have a personal connection to. So research is really key for me to writing a credible piece, so that I'm writing it realistically, because authenticity is what we strive for.
I suppose I wrote a piece called Gameplay, and it's a piece about the black community, upward mobility, family, divorce, hardship. What happens to an upwardly mobile black couple thrust in the midst of this corporate world, and the pitfalls and the downfalls that could that creeps upon them. I talk to a lot of couples who have gone through this process. We all want upward mobility, but at what cost? What is the price that you have to pay? What does it do to the family? So that my gameplay explores that phenomena of the upwardly mobile black couple, and especially how it wears and tears on the male, on the so-called head of household, and what happens when the roles reverse, when the wife has to take on the role of the breadwinner, and the male is left out there wandering. So I like I said, I talked to a lot of couples who have gone through that, those that have survived, and those whose marriages didn't survive. And I try to get a fair perspective on the two of them and let you judge for yourself. There's no taking sides. It just is what it is. So those are the types of issues that I like to address when we talk about what's happening socially out there.
So you mentioned doing the research, talking to professionals, especially like when you're dealing with mental health and that sort of thing. I know I've had to do, I did research as well on human trafficking, and as I was writing the screenplay. And of course I had to do my research for the show, The Life of Sam Cook, and the Oscar and Sweet story. So research for you young writers out there, for all you aspiring writers out there who want to write screenplays or stage plays, research is a valuable part. And the other valuable part in terms of writing, and Angela mentioned this earlier, formatting. The format.
Yes.
I mean, what do you need to have? I can tell you that if you're going to open up a play, that's exposition. And you've got to be able to, in that exposition, establish your themes, your plots, your subplots, your character development, and then you have your rise in action as you go through those plots and subplots, and everything has to be built toward the climax,
Yes.
and then come with your conclusion. That's the nature of writing pretty much anything that you're going to put in front of an audience.
It has to have a beginning, it has to have a middle, and it has to have an end.
It's a turn.
That's a story. You
That's
can't get away from that.
The basic fundamentals of writing right there. I just want to say that you're watching Curtain Call on Wjzz Cool TV, streaming live on Facebook, X, YouTube, and other streaming sources. Again, you're watching Curtain Call on Wjzz Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world.
All right.
Like that. Again, on the formatting aspect, you said you don't do the actual teaching. You just give people an opportunity to come in and do the writing and encourage them to take classes.
Yeah,
Some of the
take
places-
classes, but we also, I do a lot of sharing
Mhm.
of formatting. I will actually send to I send to our members standard formatting and modern formatting, but I will actually send it to them, so there's no problem.
Mhm.
Whatever they don't have, what they need, I try really hard to get it to them. I send a lot of information out about playwriting opportunities, festivals, things they might be interested in, bringing in, letting them know about workshops or conventions or things like that. We like to keep them informed, keep our members informed about what's going on out there.
Because our
Yeah,
ultimate
so much help.
goal is not that you're just reading in front of us
Mhm.
year after year, but to become a production-worthy playwright, to get your story before an audience. So we're always encouraging them to submit locally and across the state, anything that they may be viable for. And that's why I personally am a stickler for formatting and for readability. Because if I can't read it and she can't read it and we can't understand it, it's going to be tossed in the pile. If you want to submit this, this is people's livelihoods, reading your stuff and producing your work. So we're casual in our approach, but very serious in our intent, because we have a passion for it.
I can understand that. I think I kind of preach that myself. So you brought some things to look at, or?
Well, about a flyer.
Oh, okay. Well, concerning the showcase.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Get it seen. But
Okay.
this was designed by my very creative son
Okay.
on his spare time, which he has none of now that he's out of school and working. So the Detroit Playwrights Lab is going to have our 2024 New Works Showcase, and this will be our 7th annual showcase
Okay.
of 10-minute works.
At the Detroit.
At the Detroit Repertory Theater this year, we're going to have it for the first time on a Sunday, October 13th,
Okay.
at 4 p.m.
Okay.
Free admission.
Free admission, no one under 18, mostly
Okay.
because of the space is limited. There's only, believe it or not, 194 seats at the Detroit Rep, so
Right.
it's less than 200. And we always pack the place, even right after COVID. It wasn't every seat filled, but it was pretty close.
Okay.
We tend to have standing room only.
Okay.
So we welcome people to come out and check us out and see the fruition. The showcase is the biggest thing that we do, but it's not by any means the only thing that we do. But it gives our members something to strive for and something to look forward to as the viable playwrights that we're striving to help them to be.
Okay.
And we use local directors and local actors.
Yes, we do.
To give them some of the actors haven't had much of a chance to be on stage. And to be in the venue like the Detroit Repertory Theater is big. It's huge. So to get some of our actors some continued experience on the Detroit Rep stage and our directors, we're sort of all inclusive for the theater community in general.
There's a lot of cachet to being, it's not, the showcase is not put on by the Detroit Rep, but the fact that it's
There
there,
at the rep, right.
people are very excited to be on that stage, even as a novice. And we often will go to their actors workshop showcase
Right.
and recruit from there.
Okay.
They're new, they're hungry, and they have talent.
Okay.
So let's see if we can't, because the directors cast, but we definitely help. And we like to do it locally, and we like to open up to local directors because we feel, theater is a community. It's a community thing. So we open it up to local directors, local actors. The rep helps us out. We're nonprofit, 100% 501c3.
Okay.
We're not wealthy, but we are viable, and we continued even through COVID.
Okay,
Even by
that's
Zoom.
great.
We
Through
kept it-
donations.
Yeah, we do.
Right.
We do take donations.
Okay.
Yeah, we passed the plate.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Who are some of the directors you've used?
Leah Smith.
Leah Smith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lynch Travis, who's a well-known, Lynch Travis,
Okay.
well-known actor and director. Kaz Settle, these are all well-known Metro Detroit area theater people.
Okay.
Who else are some of the actors?
I mean, we have to look.
That's okay.
Oh my goodness, 7 years. Cassandra Freeman, who has been on the stage of the Detroit Repertory since she was about 19 years old.
Yolanda Jack,
Yolanda Jack, she's a well-known actor, has done a lot at the Detroit Repertory Theater.
Aria Moody.
She has done a lot of community theater, and this is her second year directing for us.
She's a comedian and an actor as
And
well.
a phenomenal singer.
Okay.
Phenomenal singer.
Jonathan Williams, who's an actor and director, a lot of movies.
This is our
We
program
also
for
have
next year.
Okay.
we have been privileged to have some great leaders for our talkbacks. We do talkbacks after
After the showcase.
after the showcase.
Your question and answer. We had Gary Anderson last year and again this year,
Okay.
who the executive director of Plowshares.
Plowshares. I hope to get him on sometime soon.
John Sloan has been.
Yes, he did our talk back. Who's with the 10 years he traveled with the Lion King.
Right. I
And
had him on earlier this
Okay.
summer.
Now he runs the Obsidian Theater.
Right.
We collaborate a lot with other theater groups.
Okay.
I mean, that's what sustains us and them. We collaborate with the Ann Eskridge's Playwrights Group.
And that's right.
Yeah.
Extra
Which
Mile
guy- which
Players.
Extra
playwright
Mile.
group is it?
Extra Mile Playwright.
Okay.
that
And
was-
Eskridge.
And Estridge.
Mhm.
Okay.
Eskridge, yeah. We collaborate all the time.
Mhm.
We're not in competition because there's room.
Right.
There's so much talent and so much creative energy
Right.
that there has been plenty of room. We go to their stage readings. They come to ours.
Mhm.
Marilyn McCormick is a supporter of ours.
Okay.
Brian Mirabal, who does a lot with the Detroit Public Theater. He's been to our meetings. We were trying to get him to direct this year.
Okay.
We're constantly just like always
We
scouting.
reach out. We're always reaching out to the local playwrights, directors, and actors.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we like a diverse.
And we have we are a diverse group. We are a diverse
Oh,
group.
that's great. That's great. That's good. It is good to hear. I want to make this sure that everybody knows about this. Get plenty of exposure. Like I said, I had John Sloan on earlier this year with Obsidian, and his career and everything was such an interesting story to be told. And there's so many gifted, talented young artists in the city that I'm just looking forward to get on this show. Who are some of the maybe talent that come through and then moved on to bigger things maybe?
Well, right now there's Aaron Johnson, who has a master's in playwriting from, was it Ohio State?
Mhm.
He recently married, and he and his wife have relocated to Chicago. His pieces were always selected for our showcase. He's a very solid writer, but one of his pieces was picked up by the Mosaic Youth Theater
Okay.
for a production. So that's right now our biggest claim to, I mean, we've worked with the Purple Rose, we've been selected and commissioned, the Box Fest, Theater
yeah.
Festival for Women.
Okay.
You and Crystal have had stuff down in Houston for Fade to Black.
Fade
So,
to Black.
yeah.
Some of our pieces have been picked for their festivals, and we've been honored because the hundreds of entries, but ours were put in production by Fade to Black, and they'll be having a big conference next year, big festival, worldwide festival next year in 2025. So we're excited about that for that collaboration.
Okay.
So-
That's going to be here.
No, that's in
That's in
Houston.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're all growing. We didn't all start at the same level, but we're all getting more and more recognition. And we are really helping each other out.
Obviously, yeah. This is. You're just sitting there listening. It's helping me out and giving me some thoughts and some things. Maybe I should submit some of them right. I don't have anything 10 minutes long though.
Neither did we. I didn't.
You
My
know,
first, I've taken some excerpts out of 10-minute pieces, like the very, very first play I ever wrote. I was inspired by 9/11.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I couldn't watch regular network TV. All I could watch was the news channels. I mean, I was 12 miles from where 9/11 happened.
Wow.
So it seemed trivial to just watch regular TV. And the first piece I wrote was dealing with generational brokenness and molestation within the family. And that was originally called No Greater Love, but now it's called, because it's based off of a biblical Old Testament, the story of the prophet Gomer and his wife. So it's based off of that, but it's called The Whore of Shamron.
I read that.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's a full-length piece that's registered with the U.S. copyright. But I pulled excerpts out and turned them into 10-minute pieces for the showcase. So that's all we ask. As long as it has a beginning, middle, and end, it's been critiqued, and it's 10 minutes, you got a shot at making our showcase.
Okay, I'm working with some young people now who wrote some pieces, and I kind of helped them develop that at the school out in Southfield, at the high school, one of the high schools out there, and it was about 10 minutes long, and it touched on a little bit on mental illness, and then they're going to continue to develop it and make it an ongoing story. I'm interested in seeing how that's going to develop. What are some of the storylines that people can expect to see when they come out to the showcase 2 weeks from now?
Your piece has got the race.
My piece is entitled Diamond Boy. It is the story of something that it's a monologue. It started off not as a monologue, but right now it's a monologue. Dealing with, Diamond Boy is a horse. It's about a black equestrian. We don't find too many equestrians who are black. And what she has to face and the obstacles that she had to go through just to get into that field of horseback riding, and competing on an international level. And starting in as a child from the projects, and how she made her way up to the point of being a world-class equestrian, what she had to face.
In 10 minutes.
It's a 10-minute piece.
It's not easy either.
It's not.
It's not easy. She wanted to strangle me. Because hers was 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 14 minutes. It is not easy, but I mean, it's worth it. We have a piece based on the day after Martin Luther King was assassinated. We have a piece based on an actual news story for a lockdown in Detroit called One Sunday Morning. We have a piece.
What's that about?
It was an actual.
After the riot, or?
No, this is more modern, like 20.
It was a few years back.
Yeah.
Based on a threat in the city. Someone had a gun, and they locked down the neighborhood because someone was out in the street with a gun. So the story of those two people and how they their reaction to the lockdown. That's really interesting.
And their differences, the differences that they thought they had, and the similarities that they discovered they have coming from supposedly different backgrounds.
That piece was written by Deborah Patrick. She's a fantastic writer. As a matter of fact, she has a piece. We're so proud of her. She has a piece that's going to be presented by Theater Nova. It's on there. It's in the lineup for this coming spring season.
Yeah, in Ann Arbor.
We're very, very proud of her.
Yeah.
Oh.
And we've worked with Theater Nova because one of our earliest members was Emilio Rodriguez, who is the director of Black and Brown Theater, which is a theater that presents stories through actors of color. I mean, he produced our first few showcases. He helps us to cast. And it's so important to have this collaboration because, sometimes we're short-handed here. We got to be able to tap all these people. And
in fact,
that's...
I'm going to be tapping on the shoulder after this show to get contact information so that people so we can get them on and get them exposure on streaming, on this live streaming service. Go ahead, you were talking about...
Oh, no, I was just giving Deborah Patrick her accolades for having her full-length play. And it's the play, and I cannot think of its name, in Detroit, the shooting in the 1920s, The Doctor.
I See and Sweet.
I See and Sweet.
I See and Sweet.
Okay.
I've written a screenplay.
She has a play that's going to be presented at Theater Nova in the spring.
And a piece in our
From the wife's perspective.
Okay.
From the wife's perspective. Okay,
Yeah.
so my perspective is from Dr. Sweet himself, and includes the wife's perspective as well.
But hers her play is strictly from the wife's perspective. And yeah, we'll get you in touch with Deb Patrick. Yeah,
Okay,
see?
yeah,
There you go.
Mine is a screenplay.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
actually wrote it back in the 90s. But I'm still working on it. In fact, I'm working on it right now. Trying to make it marketable.
Yeah,
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 more marketable. I
yeah.
think it's already marketable. I do have some people interested in it. But yeah, the Ice and Sweet story is a rich story.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And I'm interested. I'd like to talk to her about the Wjzz perspective. That's part of what I'm doing in strengthening the script is coming from her more of her perspective as opposed to just his perspective. And of course, the court perspective, which basically comes from the actual transcripts that are from the library, you know, the actual trial transcripts. That's what I use for to develop those trial scenes, the actual transcripts from them.
It's such a rich, rich story.
It
Yeah,
is a rich, rich
that's it.
story. Again, you're watching WJZZ Cool TV, Curtain Call, all about theater, the podcast that brings you every aspect of theater. Again, Curtain Call on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest TV station in the world. And we're so happy to have with us co-founders of the Detroit Playwrights Lab that operates right now out of the Detroit Repertory Theater. If you don't know, the Detroit Repertory Theater is a long-standing professional theater company here in Detroit with artistic director Leah Smith right now. And their season is getting underway soon. And they've got 4 really great shows coming up. I can't tell you what's coming up first. But
Alamo Shoes.
what is it?
Alamo Shoes.
Alamo Shoes, right, about a shoe store right here in Detroit, written by a local playwright that just moved
Yes,
to
he
Chicago.
he's originally from Detroit.
Okay, now is that the person that you were talking about, Aaron? Or
No,
this-
no,
or this is someone
Aaron is
else?
a different
Well, she
playwright,
had
yeah.
mentioned to me that it was written by a local playwright who just recently moved to
Right,
Chicago.
exactly. Can't remember his name right now, but yes,
Right,
yes.
and so they've got a good lineup of shows coming up this season. You definitely want to see the August Wilson installation of this season, which will be Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So as we look at some of these these pieces or 10-minute pieces that are coming up, have any of them been developed into full-length shows and presented in any of our local theater houses or other places?
Right now, they're mostly being pulled from.
Mostly, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
that's what helped me to write The Horror of Shamron. I kept pulling pieces out, rewrite The Horror of Shamron. I kept pulling out pieces and having it showcased either through our showcase or other film theater festivals. And now I have a full-length piece in that I would love to get produced.
Okay.
And now I'm doing that now with the piece that is in this year's showcase on Bobo Jenkins, who was a legendary blues musician who started the International Blues Festival.
Okay.
I'm developing that and into a full length, but in the meantime, this is backwards for me because usually I'll write a piece and then pull pieces out and then develop what I originally wrote. I'm starting from scratch with this one. This is a brand new piece for me.
Okay.
Working towards developing it into a full length piece.
Okay. Charity, you working on anything?
Oh, I just finished what I call my controversial piece, gameplay. Not gameplay, I'm sorry, tribute. Tribute is the story of a sharecropper who went to Hollywood, became a song and dance man, in the likes of Stepin Fetchit.
Okay.
Okay, I just finished that piece. It's trying to make it into a musical because you have to have step and fetch it. You have to have those elements of the song and dance. I had a reading of it at my house recently, and I got a lot of encouragement. And we're going to see where we can take it. I was a little apprehensive about writing it, But I got a lot, like I said, like a lot of encouragement after it was read and people understood where I was coming from and the perspective of you can't just judge a book by its cover. You have to dig deeper. That's why I say I'm character driven. You have to dig
Right.
deeper and find out, you know, the motives of why people do what they do, because he was scourged and talked about. To this day, Stephen Fetchit is scourged and talked about. But what was underneath? What were his motivations? Why did he do what he did? And that's why I explore.
That's a rich story to be told.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to that.
it's a good one.
Yeah,
We read it in her backyard a few
Right.
Sundays
Yeah.
ago.
That's a good story
Yeah.
to be told.
You could say it's controversial, but it is a story that has a lot of depth that needs to be shared.
Right.
Our history is not always pretty, but it's
Right.
our history, and it's
It's rich.
gotten us where we are
know.
today.
You take the story of Stephen Fetchit and you add in Amos and Andy and those kind of stories, and then you've got a whole Hattie McDaniel. You add in those stories, and there's a rich underlying of cultural black awareness that can be brought out of those stories, and that's why playwriting and storytelling is so important, and theater is so viable now because it can give you history, it can give you the foundations of so many. It's storytelling, and it's slices of life. It's what we're all about, and it can best be told on the stage. I want to thank you both for being here today, and it's been so interesting and so enjoyable talking to you both here on this episode of Curtain Call. I want to plug one thing that I've got coming up this weekend. On Saturday, October 5th, I'll be participating in a workshop entitled Empowering Content Creators Through Acting and Education, featuring me, and I'm sure there'll be some other people on. It'll be held this Saturday at 6 o'clock at 17800 Northland Park Court, Suite 103 in Southfield, Michigan. So look it up, come by and check it out. And again, I want to thank my guests for being with us today on Curtain Call. Tune in next week when our guest will be Morgan Briand, another young, brilliant playwright. Thank you for enjoying our show today.
Playwrights Lab,
Playwrights Lab, check it out.
October 13th, Detroit Repertory, 4 o'clock, free.
Be there.
Great.
We will. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you.